Welcome to Hood Champion Boxing and Sports. In boxing, you find a way to win or you find a way to lose. Let me tell you something, man. When you have a fighter who's moving up in weight, like Terence Crawford, to fight Canelo, although Crawford's moving up in weight, that doesn't mean that the danger is any less for Canelo. And I really think Canelo and most fans, feel that moving up in weight means there's less danger. And that is just not the case. And that could backfire on Canelo. Now, he, like many people, have always taken jabs, and Canelo right now is taking jabs at Terence Crawford's resume. And I'll say this. I could understand why people highlight Crawford's resume. Because he doesn't have, his resume doesn't have that pizzazz on it. You know what I'm saying? But he fought quality fighters who were champions or who were ranked across the sanctioning bodies. And those guys were good fighters. They were great. Some of them were great fighters, but they weren't superstars. Okay? And if they were, they were superstars before they fought Crawford. Only one really who had that pizzazz, and the name that stands out, I think most would agree, is Earl Spence. But we're not downplaying any of the other fighters. But I personally think Canelo's digging his own grave, because I think he's going to figure out that Crawford fight is going to be more dangerous than he realizes, where he's out here saying he fought with nobody. Now, I'm listening to Canelo say that, and I know there's a lot of gamesmanship that takes place with these fighters, but it sounds to me like Canelo is really kind of bought into this. But if Terence Crawford pulls off the upset on September 13th, that narrative, as far as Crawford fought nobodies and his resume is weak, that narrative is going to flip big time. I'll tell you what. A lot of fighters talk trash, and the crap talk, it ends up backfiring. But you undermine Crawford's legacy like Canelo's doing. It just sets the stage for what I feel for Canelo, who's already signed like a 3 or 4 fight deal with Turki Al-Sheikh. It just sets the stage for a massive ego hit. Because Canelo has ego, he has pride. Listen to him talk. He's never fought at Canelo. He started talking in third person like Miguel Cotto. And I'm like, man, Canelo is really, he has every right to have confidence. I'm telling you, Canelo can fight. But I'm like, boy, if Crawford beats Canelo, we know Deontay Wilder is struggling mentally just as a result of taking losses and the way he's lost. But if Crawford comes out here and beats Canelo, whether he just outpoints him, whether he knocks him out, it doesn't matter. If he gives him a loss, Canelo, I think, is going to just spiral out of control. He may really start hitting the goddamn tequila, and riding them horses out there in Mexico. Because I don't think he's going to be able to handle it. Especially when you figure, he says Crawford's a great fighter, but he's fought nobody. So what does that make Crawford? And then this nobody is how he's trying to describe Terence Crawford, comes and beats you. And then what? I just think it's not just a loss. You know what I'm saying? I think it's a loss to who Canelo and a lot of fans have publicly dismissed. And this has been going on for a long time. But I just think, for me, Canelo should show him more respect. But to me, he's not really showing the respect I think Crawford deserves. But Crawford's showing Canelo the respect he deserves. And Crawford said something that I thought was amazing. He said, I could talk trash about Canelo. I could say horrible things. He was like, about his fight, he said, but I'm not going to, because I'm just trying to pay homage to the guys he fought as well. So these are fighters. I don't want to disrespect anyone. So I just give him respect. And I thought that was really classy, because Canelo doesn't have that about him. It's all about Canelo and Canelo's world. Matter of fact, Canelo probably feels he could kick Chuck Norris' ass. Chuck Norris doesn't do push-ups. He pushes the earth down. Canelo comes and kicks Chuck Norris' ass and moves him out the way, and then Canelo pulls the world back up and pushes it back down just to, because in his mind, he can outdo Chuck Norris. So whatever with him, man. But I tell you what, if Crawford wins, I think fans and media will reframe Canelo's entire late career arc. The way his career is kind of peaked and arced, I think they're going to see it where he underestimated a smaller, older, quote-unquote unproven opponent, and that's just going to be the end of the Canelo era. And I don't see why Turki Al-Sheikh would want to have Canelo fight 3 times, 4 more times in Saudi if Crawford comes out here and tranquilizes him. Maybe the rematch, but if he loses that too, then what? It's just all bad. But I just think what Canelo's doing is I thought it was just a lot of these guys trying to hype the fight up, but Canelo really believes that Crawford doesn't stand a chance. And I just think that's giving Crawford extra motivation. I really do. I think when Crawford said, hey, you watch when I walk you down, I was like, Canelo's supposed to be the bigger man. And even Crawford said that. And he's like, what you going to say then? When I walk you down, he's supposed to be the bigger man. And I'm like, man, if Crawford can pull that off, which is possible, seems like a very lofty goal because we all expect Canelo to be the one doing the walking down, and Crawford floating like a butterfly, trying to sting like a bee in that 18 by 18 square foot ring. But if it happens that way, it's going to speak volumes about Crawford, about the opponents he faced, and about how special of a fighter he is if he can do that to, the face of boxing, which is Canelo Alvarez. Now, if Crawford does beat Canelo, what's up, Pocho? You just want to hang in here with me? I'm almost done, okay? You relax in here with me. That's my little man right there. But if Crawford does beat Canelo, it's a historic achievement. You know what I'm saying? He become the first male boxer to be undisputed in 3 weight classes, and he'd do it by jumping from 147 to 168. And I think it's absolutely amazing, man. He'd be the pound-for-pound number 1, which is where some people had him there, but had Canelo ahead of him. But this would definitely alleviate all debating on who's the pound-for-pound number 1. Crawford will beat that guy, and beating Canelo at super middleweight, I just think for Crawford in his place of the sport, he talking about being put on the Mount Rushmore. Like, I don't know about that. But I'll say he'll definitely be recognized as the number 1 pound for pound, best fighter in boxing today. And I think he can do it. And the other thing about Crawford beating Canelo, I just think when you look at Canelo's legacy, I think people are really going to stop and dig and really start to highlight the fights where Canelo had, where there were catch weights, where there were rehydration clauses, where there were certain things done with gloves, rings, etc. All the things that the secret society tries to keep under wraps, to not make public, you're going to find a lot of those things becoming public now. We're going to be like, damn, really? That happened with Canelo and this guy, Canelo and that guy? And that's going to have people sitting here looking at Canelo like he's crazy. And in turn, what they're going to do is they're going to start poking holes at Canelo's resume the same way they're presently doing Terence Crawford. So how amazing that would be to see the tables turn to where now Crawford is seen as the GOAT and Canelo seen as the hype job. That would be wild. But, it happens when fighters underestimate lesser opponents or smaller opponents. When you talk about underestimating somebody as seeing them as a lesser opponent, Mike Tyson and Buster Douglas. Buster Douglas, we're not talking about size necessarily, but he was not supposed to beat Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson clipped him. Hasim Rockman couldn't touch Lennox Lewis. He couldn't hold that man's jockstrap. But somehow he got in there. Lewis underestimated him, and Hasim Rockman touched him up. I remember when Nonito Donaire fought Guillermo Rigondeaux. Donaire was riding a high as fighter of the year. Got in there dismissing Rigondeaux's amateur pedigree because Nonito Donaire was an experienced pro fighter. Shit, man, got outclassed over 12 rounds, was looking stupid in the ring. Okay, so I just think we just really got to stop and understand all the fights that happened in the past and understand how fighters who perceive their opponent to be smaller or to be a lesser opponent and how shit went wrong. Remember when Pacquiao and De La Hoya fought? That was a dream fight. We know De La Hoya had to melt himself down to 147, but again, that was something where Pacquiao De La Hoya just felt he was going to beat Pacquiao, but the smaller man bubbled up and did the business. Shane Mosley, man, he moved up from lightweight to welterweight to fight De La Hoya, did the business. Holyfield and Buster Douglas. Let me tell you something. Douglas had just clipped Mike Tyson. You know what I'm saying? Everybody saw him as a fluke. Holyfield moved up from cruiserweight to heavyweight and damn near killed Buster Douglas in 3 rounds. So you can see where I'm going with this. Is that there's a pattern here, and it's happened in the past where fighters underestimate individuals they feel are smaller than them or lesser than them. And a really good example of that is Roy Jones Jr. and John Ruiz. John Ruiz really felt Roy Jones wasn't going to stand a chance. Roy Jones bubbled up and put the bing bings on him. And another good example of Canelo, and this is with Canelo now, where he kind of saw an opponent, felt the opponent was lesser than him, although the opponent was bigger, he felt the opponent was lesser, and he got embarrassed. That's when he went to fight Bivol. That was a cherry pick gone wrong. He just really thought he was going to be able to go in there and, have his way with Bivol because Bivol not really known as a knockout puncher. And, things backfired on Canelo big time. So there are some people who are saying Bivol beat Canelo, Madrimov prepared Bivol for Canelo, and Crawford just fought Madrimov. So they're saying the common denominator here is Madrimov helping prepare Bivol to beat Canelo, and Crawford just fought Madrimov, beat him. So essentially, Madrimov, in a roundabout way, helped prepare Crawford to go and beat Canelo. All I'm going to say is, man, when you have elite skill, you have elite speed, and you have a chip on your shoulder, I just think that can work to your advantage. And I think when you're talking about a guy like Crawford being a smaller fighter, hey, stop before you knock that stuff down. Okay? We're about to go out. When you have an elite fighter with elite speed, elite skill, and a chip on the shoulder like Crawford, it doesn't matter how small he is or whatever. I just think he has a good chance of coming up and making Canelo eat his own words. That's why I think Canelo could be digging his own grave by just totally dismissing Terence Crawford and his resume. Because if he gets in and he loses, what does that say about Canelo? Anyway, y'all keep cool. Canelo's a bad boy. Crawford's a bad boy. But I'm in the breeze.